you coming out of any educator saying, why aren't they teaching the way that I learned? My question to you is, did you like math? Do you want us to still teach it the way that you learned it? So you're saying you don't like math, you hate math, math isn't your thing, math isn't your jam, but you want us to teach your kid the same way. That's crazy.
Okay, guys. Oh my God. I just got back from 40 days on the road speaking to educators across North America about math therapy. And I feel like I've just arisen from a fugue state. What just happened? I literally left sunny Palm Springs. 10 hours later, I was in snowy Toronto. It has been a wild ride. It was just so cool to see so many teachers wearing their new math therapy merch. And I literally almost died when I found out that my book sold out at 2 of the conferences I was at. What? Thank you guys so much. I don't know. I learned so much from all of you and all of the teachers there and all of the incredible educators. And I also have to say that what I really learned is that our collective obsession with the 6-7 situation is not slowing down anytime soon. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. We all hate it. But when life hands you lemons, you make a podcast about it. So before we get into today's interview, I want to try something with you guys. If you or a teacher or parent you know has found some way to incorporate this 6-7 nonsense into your kids' learning, I want to hear about it. I've heard some stories about this, and I thought this is a great example of meeting kids where they are and incorporating what they're interested in to get them invested in learning, no matter how completely ridiculous we think it is. So text the podcast with a brief story or send a voice note by Instagram DM or by email to vanessa@themathguru.ca. Links for those are in this episode's description. I want to hear from you. All right, on to today's episode. So this crazy teacher conference tour I've been on has been truly incredible, both for the thousands of inspiring teachers I've met and also the incredible network of other innovators in the math ed world trying to fix the broken parts of the system. That's why I've been so excited to have Rob Baier on the podcast. Because guys, he's one of the most passionate, inspiring math educators I know. And honestly, I love him even more for the authentic, loyal friend that he is. As I've gotten to know Rob more and more over the past 40 days, I've realized how rare it is to meet someone who always stands up for what they believe in, won't back down when they sense bullshit, and truly has his heart set on what is best for those around him. And that's why today's conversation is so special, because Rob does not hold back. As usual, I went in with a plan, and then instead of following that plan, I just asked him the first thing that popped into my mind, and that sent us down a rabbit hole debating how our assessment systems contribute to math anxiety and trauma, why we became so obsessed with getting every student into calculus in the first place, and what student learning has in common with binging an entire season of Ginny and Georgia. Rob shared so much practical advice for teachers and generally made me snort laugh multiple times in this episode. Remember, if something makes you go, oh my God, you can always pause, share this episode with a friend you want to yell about it with, and text the podcast if you have any thoughts by hitting the link in the show notes. So guys, here we go. I cannot wait for you to meet my friend, the one and only Rob Baier. Hello, Rob. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me.
You host your own podcast, don't you?
I do. Is this how we're going to do this? Yes.
I don't know. That's just what came out of my mouth.
Yes. I host my own podcast with Chris Lesniak, his book is up for debate. Our podcast is called Debate Math. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Okay. The reason first of all, this is an audio podcast. No one's going to be watching the video, so don't worry about that. Okay, the reason I brought that up is it just occurred to me, and I just say the first thing that comes into my mind because I have no filter. That's just how it works. But it occurred to me as I said it, I was like, okay, you host your own podcast called Debate Math, which is all about having conversations and talking about the nuance of topics that can feel very heated.
Yeah.
And this is a nice little segue because we've interviewed Pam Harris on the podcast. And the reason I know Pam Harris is because we both debated the value of algorithms on your podcast. One thing that I think is really cool about you now that we've kind of become friends is you and I love talking about things and kind of dissecting them and being like, well, what about this side? What about that side? And something I've always admired about you is that you share a quality I have. So really, I'm just complimenting myself, which is that we're often able to see many sides of something. So we don't like to jump to conclusions. We don't want to write something off. We're very often well, yeah, I can see that side, but then am I overthinking it and am I doing we talk a lot like that, both of us. I kind of want to know, what is the thing in math education right now that you feel like you're kind of on the fence about, that you're having trouble picking a side? Is there something, you can pick more than one, but right now, what's top of mind? When I say that, what's the thing for you?
Wow. Maybe around this idea of assessment. Like, what is assessment? What are we assessing for? And what it kind of comes out as is like grades. And then I'm like, okay, well, then it sounds like it's not an issue within, do we have assessments or are we assessing? The issue is the educational system and the focus and impact on grades. So like, how do we shift that? Like so me being on the fence is like, how do we still have to play by the rules because of the rules that were dealt with? And how do we continue to honor like what actual assessment is, like assessing, do students actually understand a certain concept? And are we in the moment where, like, I believe in like spiral learning trajectories, and are we in that moment where we're assessing the student on mastery, but they're not in the moment of mastery? It's kind of a nuanced discussion around that.
You said a bunch of words that, okay, I'm going to need you to define a few of the words you said. Okay. You just like casually were like, I believe in a spiral curriculum. What is that?
Spiral learning trajectories. Okay, so a spiral. Oh, this is perfect for this podcast. Let's talk about Netflix. Okay?
Oh my God, I can't wait.
So
yeah.
I'm curious for you, what's something that you're binging right now? Like that you sit down, you've binged. Like, what's something you binged? What is it?
Ginny and Georgia.
Okay, so and like you sat down all in one setting, and like you've like one where like you may sit
over 3 days.
Over 3 days, you watch like a whole like series or something like that, right?
Yeah, like I couldn't stop. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch. Yes.
Okay, so if a month from now, if we came back and I said, hey, what were some of the things that happened during that? Like, what were some of the details? You wouldn't be able to recall all of it. You'd be able to recall parts of it, but what you would remember would not be as much as what you would remember right at the end of it. Correct?
Okay, yeah.
Way back when we were younger, back in the day, when there was weekly things, and we're talking about like, let's say Thursday nights, I know I was going to date myself a little bit, but Thursday nights, Friends is on, right? Or
Friends and Who's the Boss?
Who's the Boss?
Yep.
Or Boy Meets World, or, like all of these shows, or like, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like that was Friday nights. But like the fact that I remember that is crazy. You
remember the days of the weeks? Why do you remember that?
Because it was TGIF on like ABC or whatever. And like,
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, when we're thinking back to that, like what happened between like an episode and another episode? We had time in between, right? And that time in between, socially, what were we doing? We were
talking about it.
Yes. And we were processing it.
We were like, oh my, yeah, okay.
And having conversations and like, throwing things out there because like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next. And like, all this stuff, right?
In between weeks, we'd be talking about the episodes. We'd be like, oh, I can't wait till next week's episode. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah. So full circle back to what is a spiral trajectory. It's where we're teaching students like not to mastery in the moment, but we are building something that continues to circle back and cycle back. And in between, they're applying like the little skills that they're learning, and they're having conversations. And like, it's not, and this can happen over weeks. And as we're building towards mastery, as opposed to, like teaching in units similar to binge watching, where students would have a lot more success right after a unit, right? On an assessment or, and how they are having success in like math. That's the difference between the two. Like one's like a more unit like driven, the other one's spiral where it's coming back. Learning trajectories are like
I love this.
How students learn mathematics. Like if this, then that. So for instance, you were at our session at NCSM when we built the 17 times tables.
For people who don't know what we're talking about, it was very, very cool. No one knows their 17 times tables off by heart. So Rob was showing us a way that we could build the 17 times tables, tapping into knowledge we already have, as opposed to mastering them by memorizing. So for example, most of us could say what 17 times 1 is, right? It's 17. We already know that. How can we use that to figure out what 17 times 2 is? We could even add them together if we wanted and get 34. Now, it might be hard to get to 17 times 3, but if we have 34 is 17 times 2, we could maybe use that knowledge to go to 17 times 4 because we know it's doubling. That's prior knowledge. Okay, anyways, I don't know if that was necessary.
No, that's actually 100% necessary. A learning trajectory would be things like, we skip count coming out of second grade. We are able to skip count by 2s and 5s and 10s, right? So it's natural to start, when you start to introduce multiplication, to go back to talk about doubling, because the idea of doubling is a foundational skill for addition. And so we can start with doubling and counting by 2s, and then we get into building the 2s times tables. So we're multiplying by 2. And then once we multiply by 2 and build the 2s times tables, remember, we're not mastering, we're just building those. And then we build the 5 times tables. And once we know the 2s and we know the 5s, and we also talked about doubling, the natural progression would be 4s. Because 2s and once we know 2s and 4s, the natural progression would be 8s.
8? Okay, but sorry, back me up. What does this have to do with spiraling?
This is the learning trajectory piece. How students should learn mathematics or can learn mathematics, like in a sequential way. Like if they know this, then they know this, then they know this, then they know this.
Then they know, okay.
Yeah, so
we're building on prior knowledge.
We're building on prior knowledge. So like once you build the 2s, then we learn the 4s. And like the idea of like how we were all taught, we're going to learn the 2s. Now we're going to memorize the 3s. Now we're going to memorize the 4s.
Okay.
Now we're going to memorize the 5s and so on. And then for whatever reason, 7s, are right after 6s, right? Well, in learning trajectories, like when we start thinking about how the brain actually, is processing this, 7s are last.
Why are 7s last?
2s, 5s, 4s, because we got 2 and 4. Once we go 4s, then we go 8s.
Because we're doubling every time, so we already understand that.
Then we come back to
Then what?
Then we come back to 3s, because once we know 2s and 4s, we can use deductive thinking to get to 3s. Now we know 2s and 3s, so naturally it's going to be 6. And then once we know,
because we can now double the 3 to get to a 6.
Yep.
Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah, and then from 6s.
Oh, okay, and then
from 6s we go to 9s. And then the last one is 7s, because 7s doesn't really have a connection unless you're a massive American football fan and you play Madden and you just count by touchdowns.
I don't know what that means. Okay, great. So what we were talking about is really the idea of, we started this talking about assessment just to bring us back, and the idea of when we're teaching by unit, we are then assessing at the end of every unit. We're assessing mastery. But the problem is the unit on quadratics is over. Now we've moved on to trigonometry. Months later, a student has to take an exam and they're like, wait, what the fuck? I don't remember anything I did before because I've never looked at quadratics again now that we've moved on to trig. Whereas with spiraling, we would slowly be introducing these pieces. We would circle back. We would move forward. It would be, can I just tell you that one time I actually walked into a PD session called Spiraling the Curriculum, I think it was called. And I read it as spiraling over the curriculum. And I was like, oh, good, this is going to be about like anxiety and like freaking out about the curriculum. And I went into the session and they were showing all these diagrams of how you could teach this stuff. And I was like, fuck, that's not what I thought I was doing here. Okay, so you're on the fence about the idea of assessment and why we're doing it in a way. Like, it's like, is that it? This idea of like, what is it for? No,
I think I'm on the it's more about being on the fence on, do I want to fight the fight against grades? Or do I?
Oh my God! Yes.
Okay. And then, it's tough because, like in education, I think many of us would be wanting to fight against grades, but then you have like the social aspect of grades, and then there's also like like schools are still ranking in high school, and like there's like all these things that we kind of know are not really right, in the grand scheme of things, but like we still overemphasize grades and we overemphasize other things. And it's like, okay, so, but assessment for like what assessment really should be is like, what does a student know coming in? What do they know now? And then how can we, like find out where they're struggling and help them.
Okay, I have a question though. I'm really actually glad you brought up grading because I've been wanting to ask someone these questions. You can tell me if you're like, this really isn't what I want to be talking about right now. But when you say fighting the fight against grades, me and David were having this debate because he's like, everyone kind of brings this up at one point or another in an interview. Someone will casually be like, and well, like grades are bad and like, we should get rid of grading. But I've always in the back of my mind wondered, Can someone paint me a picture of what the vision is without grades? Because I actually don't think I understand what it was. That's not you. You don't want to paint it. You don't want to do it.
No, I think so. Our mutual friend Nolan the Possum, he, was working around like ungrading at one point, and
what is it?
Well, it posed some problems where he was providing feedback in the process, and the problems that he was getting was like it's still like it's a pushback from like a community, and like you still have to put grades in, especially as a high school teacher, because then that's like how if kids are on their way to college and university, like they need it on their transcript. So then that makes grades important for that. What he was doing was providing an assessment score on what they know in that moment, and that can be improved on and should be improved on as you continue practicing that skill over time. So that's kind of what he was thinking about, right? And like I didn't get to dive too much into that, but for me, a world without grades, like I don't know what it would look like. I think it's more out of feedback and like knowing where students are and what they know and what they're capable of doing. Like let's think about we're adulting right now. Like we are in the middle of adulting. That's what we're trying to do, right? This whole what
does that mean? Like living life as an adult?
Like we're an adult. Like that's not the fantasy land that kids are in. Like we are in the middle of adulting. Like I'm married with 3 kids. That's adulting. Like that's
but I'm not married with 3 kids. Am I still adulting?
You're adulting because you are grinding with your band. You're going on tour. You have books. You are speaking engagements. Like you're doing all the things. You know what you're not doing? Worrying about I'm going to eat, these meals. I'm going to go hang out with my friends all the time. I have no bills. I have nothing to pay for. That's very kid oriented. Remember those days?
We're responsible for caring of ourselves.
Yeah, it's the worst. It's the worst. Okay. So in the adult world, like we don't receive grades. Like,
right. Okay.
We receive feedback. Like, and within feedback, then we learn from our feedback, like from feedback that's provided. When you and I present, we will receive like feedback, whether it's through social media or somebody emailing us, or like I always put up a QR code so that way they can provide me, feedback in the moment to what they like, what they didn't like. Like, then I learn from it. Within feedback, like we learn as adults. So like, why are we giving like kids like this status grade as opposed to like valuable feedback that could learn, lean into something? Like I also think people who sell things online, whether it's through like Etsy or like Amazon or wherever you're selling, Facebook Marketplace. If you're doing any of those things, like you get feedback. Like people are providing
feedback.
You got
grades also. But you also got a 5-star. You got a star system.
Well, okay, that's a star system. Is that a grade? That's not really a status symbol. It's like, hey, you did a really good job.
Why isn't that a grade? Hold on a second.
I don't know if that's a grade. That's more of like...
well, define a grade. Okay, I'm sorry. We should really have started with what is define a grade then. What's a grade?
I think a grade is more of like a status thing at this point. Whereas like the stars are more like based on... I think that's feedback on... Like it's a review of you and your process.
Hard disagree. Because if somebody goes to look at like an... okay. You know what? Actually, this brings up a very good point, because you know what really grinds my gears and I don't understand? You know what I don't understand is when people say, we've gotten rid of grading. We did this in Canada last year in BC. We've gotten rid of grading. So now students only get a number between 1 and 4. That's a fucking grade. And all the parents are like, okay, so they've gotten rid of like A, B, C, 90, 80, but I'm still looking for the 1 to 4. And I would agree that I would also add, when you go to Amazon or Google or something, you look for something with the highest rating to tell you how good that thing is. How is that not a grade? What's the difference?
That's a good question. And you know what really grinds my gears?
What?
I actually, this is a very nuanced conversation, and I don't see myself as a grading expert at all. Okay, I want to be very transparent with that. So I don't I would much rather us continue the conversation on what is a grade. Let's define a grade. Like are 5-star ratings a grade? Like that's like I would rather have a conversation around that than anything else about like, oh, you don't know what grades are. No, I don't want to talk about that. But I think we need to really focus on like, okay, like we are giving star ratings, right? The Uber, Lyft, like we get star ratings based on whatever. But what else are we giving? Feedback. So maybe what we're unpacking here is that a grade, when you have a report card or whatever, there's no feedback to it other than like a number maybe attached to it. Like, hey, you have a 98A. Okay, great. What does that mean? You got an A. But if I have a 5-star rating, or let's say I have a 4.5 star rating, well, why do I not have a 5? Oh, let's look. And you can actually see like comments and you can see things like that. Like, I think that's different. And this might, you know what? I actually think maybe I'll start doing like star ratings for my presentations when I do presentations. Like have somebody rate me like, well, 0 to 5 stars and then provide feedback just like I'm an Uber driver or a Lyft driver. And then like maybe I'll create an app. Maybe this is my $1 million idea where I'll create an app for educators, for people who are presenting, that if they want feedback and they want to learn more, like, because like, let's be honest, I've seen a lot of presentations in schools. We should probably have a star rating. Like there should be.
I love this idea.
This is probably a really good idea. I'm glad this is recorded, so that way I said it first.
You also started with maybe ungrading to like now we don't receive grade as adults to be like, let's actually give more adults grades. That's what I'm hearing has happened.
No, I know.
I don't know.
No. What I said was we should give more star ratings with feedback. Because like, if you think about this, okay, let's think about this. Okay, on the dating scene, I haven't dated in years, but on the dating scene,
David, get in on this.
Yeah, David, hop in on this.
He's so pissed.
I have, like friends who have been dating and things like that, and somebody who just got back on the dating scene, and they said, they were like, wouldn't it be nice like if, like, hey, you could pull up like this person's a 5-star person, like they're a great person. Okay, hey, this person's a 2.5 stars. Why are they 2.5 stars? Massive red flags.
Based on what? What would you base that on?
I don't know.
You could see how that could go so wrong in the dating world.
It could be, yeah, for sure.
We're riffing.
We're riffing on this. I like to look. If we're going to give stars on some things, let's give stars on everything, right? Like
okay.
So this is where
That's a hot take.
Hold on. You ready? This is where debate math comes into play. So,
well, I was going to say, this would be great for debate math.
Because
what is a grade?
Well, I'm going to go a different direction on this, because the reason why Chris and I do the podcast is like, we want to have reasoning, right? And so whenever you say, you're allowed to have opinions, but you should also have reasonings with this. So provide reasoning. So this is a healthy conversation about something that we started with, like no grades to now like we're doing 5-star ratings on dating profiles. But with all of this, all I'm saying is like we have tried to unpack and provide reasoning to everything that we were just talking about. And when you ask me, well, aren't stars, grades? Wait a second. What are grades? I think that's probably where we need to start from anything. So what
I agree.
Any disagreement we have, there's probably going to be some misconceptions and misalignments on definitions. And once we start to define something, then we build off of that definition. And now we may still be, on the opposite ends, but at least we have a clear definition on what it is we're talking about, and we can take that part out. So, so look at that full circle.
That's exactly, by the way, this is actually really full circle, because right before you, I interviewed Pam Harris, and this is exactly what happened to us. Is like halfway through a disagreement, we were like, wait a second, we're defining this term the wrong way. We were like, we've never even defined algorithm. Like, are we going by the same definition of what an algorithm even is? So I actually do think this is really, really important. And it's true. I didn't mean for this whole thing to be about grading, but now you've really gotten me thinking. And I just was like, we always have interesting discussions because it is this nuanced thing. And I actually think it's really important to be like, you kind of started this by being like, but what is assessment for? Is it just to get a grade? And then it's like, okay, but then what is a grade? And what is that even for? And I actually do think it's really interesting, because now I'm hearing you be like, well, hold on a second. The 5-star system is different because you're also getting feedback. And then I would totally lob it back to you and be like, okay, so as long as I'm giving someone a grade and I'm writing a comment next to it, is that okay? I
don't know if it's that simplistic.
No, it's not. It's obviously not. Yeah. But it's like, it's an interesting idea of why are we giving grades? It kind of seems like the reason we're doing it is because we know that our students are in a pipeline where grades will eventually be required. Because we as educators, our goal is for them to learn something, right? That is our goal. So if our goal is for them to learn something, does our grading system help or hinder that? Well, it kind of seems like it's hindering that. Because the whole thing is we give them a grade at the end of a quote unquote unit, and then we just move the fuck on. And we're grading where they are with a concept at a certain point in time with no motivation, let's even say, as educators to help them continue to master that concept later on, and no motivation for the student to continue to master that concept later on because the unit's over, they're never going to get tested on it again. So what the fuck's the point? Mm-hmm. So if our goal is for them to learn, the way we are grading at the very least seems to hinder that. And it provides no feedback or information because ideally in a world, a student would learn something, they would do whatever they would do, they would hand in their paper or whatever the assessment is, and we'd be able to say, all right, awesome, here's how close you are to this, here's what you need to work on, here's la, 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 la. And that would be the feedback they would get so they could continue to learn, which is the goal.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
What I said? I think so. Okay, so it's like obviously there's an issue here, but they're also stuck in this pipeline, so we don't know what to even do with them because eventually they'll need a grade. And I think we just have to move on from this because we need to now talk to a grading expert who has the answers. And I guess we have to find this person. Because I'd like to even imagine, yeah.
Well, I was going to say like this is exactly like where like this is why I'm on the fence with this. Like there's like you asked like this whole conversation started because you said what are you on the fence like with like in education and. This conversation that's exactly what like I mean there are other things that I'm on the fence with, but this is exactly why I'm on the fence with it because I think school to school, teacher to teacher, like in a building, teacher to teacher, there's a different definition for grades and what should be graded and all of that. And then there's also different definitions for assessment and what are assessments and whether it's formative assessment or summative assessment. And let's not get into that. Like what are formative assessments? Well, that could be formative, but it could be summative. Oh, but this is a summative assessment, but I see it as formative. Like there are so many nuances in education, which makes it incredibly hard to have a conversation like this and have a definitive answer. Like all this is going to be doing is like allowing us to structure a way to have more reasons, which is great. But then
maybe that's an incredible goal though.
It is an incredible goal, but then I love to always follow with action. And in this moment, there's there aren't any actionable steps because it's going to take way more than, a handful of people having this conversation, having general understanding.
Well, it's true, but I would almost like, as we wrap up this particular convo and move to a new topic, I actually think there is an action because I think it can be so frustrating to feel like we're talking in circles and then being like, not that we're talking in circles, but being like, oh my God, we've talked about all this and there's no answer. We crave an answer. We crave a certain answer. We want things to be black and white because it's so much easier. And guess what? That's not how the world is. They're not black and white. And I think the coolest thing is that you and I can see all these shades of gray and we can say we're on the fence instead of just doubling down and saying, nope, I'm sticking to this belief because I said it once. I actually think that's where the beauty is. And we are educators, so we should be constantly learning and questioning our beliefs. And I think an action at a point like this might be like, yeah, we're on the fence. We're not really sure. But one thing you and I have kind of come to is the most important part of the learning process when it comes to assessment is feedback. So guess what? Everyone, you got to give your grades. Cool, do it. But you know what you can do? Also, while you're giving grades, you could add a caveat to all of your students and be like, hey, look, I'm giving a grade because that's what I've got to do in this moment. But also, I really actually want to focus on the learning part. Here is some useful feedback to go along with it. That is an action we can take. And other actions we can take around grading an assessment, depending on where you are, obviously we all have our own red tape, is you can allow a lot of us have a bit of leeway to allow students to retake an assessment later down the line. I always use this example of being like a student fails a test on common denominators. They see a failed mark. A month later, they fail a test on adding fractions. They see a failure. But you know what they got right in that adding fractions test? They managed to do every single common denominator and they never get rewarded for it.
Yep.
Right? Because they never. So you could, as a teacher, be like, you know what, babe, I saw that you got all those common denominators right. What if you just take that common denominators test again now?
Or
Anyways, okay, whatever.
Or
yeah.
even more so for me, they didn't do well on the common denominator test, or adding common denominators. And I look at that as like, okay, so like, what didn't they do well? They didn't get the right answer?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Right.
But look at the process. Where are they struggling? Okay, so instead of like an A, B, C, D, maybe it's like it's like 3.5 stars and here's why. Like your process was really good. When you're doing, conversions and trying to get those common denominators, like you made some mistakes, some calculation errors, which then made your answer incorrect at the end. Oh my gosh, as a student, I'm like, oh, okay, I made a mistake here. I know what I did at the end. Like I know how to fix this.
Yeah.
As opposed to, sorry, you failed this. Thank you. Next.
Yeah, totally. I think the feedback is important, and the feedback also shows our students that we believe they can improve. We're not just slapping a grade down and saying move on. We're saying I'm giving you feedback because I think you can take the feedback and then do something with it. I kind of want to ask how, we talk about, this is a podcast about math trauma and math anxiety, how you think these current practices of assessment, or even the way we teach in a non-spiraled fashion, just unit after unit, might contribute to math trauma in some students. Do you ever think about that? Like how that might actually like cause math anxiety?
Yeah, I actually have recently, because that Netflix analogy is one that, internally at Novomat, we've talked about a lot. And I think Albert's the one that kind of came up with it, and it makes sense. And for me, as I started to reflect on unit teaching, if a student does really well at the end of a unit, and on a unit test, 3 months later, they have a cumulative exam, maybe it's like a midterm, and they bomb the midterm. And the part that they really struggle with is that unit 1 stuff, right? And now you're thinking like, wait a second. Maybe I'm stupid at math. Like I knew it at one point and I forgot it already. Maybe I'm just not good at this. Like, why can't I remember it? Well, you can't remember it because it's not your fault. Like you learned it in a block, like a unit, and then you never use it again. Like you didn't like continue practicing those skills over and over again.
Right.
Right. Like I'm pretty, so for instance, growing up, my dad showed me how to change oil out of a car. He said, you need to know how to do this. And he did this whole thing. He showed me once. I helped him once. I have not done that again in my entire life. And matter of fact, I would rather pay somebody to do it because I will screw this up. And if I were to do this now, I mean, I'm pretty sure I could empty the oil and then put it back in.
I would not trust you. Whatever you're doing with your face, I would not let you near my car.
Oh, I would look. I wouldn't let me near your car either, or mine, or anybody's. If somebody's like, hey, I want you to change the oil in my car, I'd be like, all right, give me your keys. And then I would take it to somebody and have them do it and come back. But the point I'm trying to get to is like, I was shown that in a moment. And then when I needed to help the next time, I was able to do it in that moment. I have not practiced that skill the rest of my life. I was a teenager then.
Yeah.
I am at least double the age that I was when he shared that with me. There's no way in the world I'm going to remember that. Now, on the other side of that, like I love to cook. I love to cook. I love to something I do a lot for my kids because I have a Blackstone grill is I love to make like hibachi. And I make hibachi noodles and chicken and like rice and shrimp. But it's something that like I've been crafting and trying to work on the flavors and stuff. And I keep getting better at it. And it's to the point now where like my middle son will say, hey, I want hibachi tonight. And like, we'll go get the stuff. I don't look at a recipe anymore. It's something I know because I practiced it over time, but I also failed and fixed. And I was able to fail
Rupture
forward.
and repair.
Yeah. So if we want to talk like a trauma, like if somebody's like, hey, here's the keys to my car. Can you change the oil? Yeah. It's like a flight or fight response a little bit. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Going back to math. Same thing's true for like units when you don't re-practice those skills or tie those to other concepts within. And it's just like, hey, here's this, let's move on. Here's this, let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
And then, by the end of the year and the elementary grades, they're like, we didn't get to geometry. Third grade comes along. We didn't get to geometry because that's unit 14. Mm-hmm. Well, then kids get to fourth grade and they go, didn't get to geometry because that's unit 15. Oh, then they get to fifth grade and the teacher goes, you don't know what a quadrilateral is? Because third grade and fourth grade, they didn't learn it. And then in fifth grade, and this is a standard thing, but then in fifth grade, now that fifth grade student going to trauma, that fifth grade student's going, well, I must be dumb because I'm like, that teacher said I'm supposed to know what a quadrilateral is by fifth grade. That's not their fault.
Yeah. There's two different things here because I mean, that latter example is like they literally didn't learn something, but your first example of mastering something in a moment, then never revisiting it, and then being asked to do it and thinking to yourself, I don't remember it. I actually love that you brought this up because it's so funny you say this. I was literally just talking to Raj about this on the podcast. We were talking about cars as well. And I was saying, I learned how to change a flat tire once, right? Like, and I did it. I learned how to do it and I did it. I've not used that skill since, and I don't know how to do it. Now, what's happened, and I bet you there's a phenomenon for this. I want to look it up after. It's almost made me feel stupider than if I'd never learned how to fix the flat tire in the first place. Because now my story is I knew how to do it once and now I don't, which means I can't remember things. And it was so foggy. It was so long ago. Maybe it was too hard. Maybe I didn't really know how to do it. Now my story is about my ability to learn things as opposed to being able to say, well, no one ever showed it to me. Maybe I could learn it. So I actually think this is a very interesting point that when we teach students in this way in which they get this taste of understanding something, but then later can't remember it because we've taught in units instead of spiraling, it almost adds to their story of, well, I was never really good at it if I can't do it now.
Can I add another? I actually add another layer to that.
Yeah, though. Please.
The other layer to that, and this is bringing it back to what we were talking about at the beginning. If they're not able to not only practice the skill, but to reason and be able to share and have conversations and be able to process, like that's another blocker for them that, oh, okay, I don't remember this from before, but also like they didn't get to practice or like process through, going back to when I was talking about, the weekly shows. The reason we were able to process that was through conversation and reasoning.
Right. Yeah.
So like, I really believe that like there needs to be a lot more reasoning and processing, but also like we can't just learn something and move on and like think it's not connected, which I guess, it takes us to an even bigger issue with math education in general is like, we allow that because it's so standards driven and high stakes testing still. And we allow that. And we set up a sandbox that we're trying to play in that has rules that nobody really likes.
Is this just it's because it's always been done this way? Or do you think, look, there's a conspiracy going on why we're keeping it this way?
I think a large part of it is it's always been done this way and it's something that's comfortable. Yeah. Like years ago was the race to calculus, which is still kind of a thing. But it was the race to calculus. But why did the race to calculus even occur? Well, it's because it was a space race and we were trying to get to the moon. And now that...
What, is that an analogy or is that real?
That's real. And in the United States...
Oh, really, actually?
Like the United States, we started to really push calculus and race to get every kid to take calculus because we had... basically, we were trying to get to the moon before any other country.
Do you think people have actually been to the moon or do you think it's all fabricated?
Next question.
Okay, we have to wrap up. I don't know how we've been talking for this long, but this is just like gone in the oddest, but I'm so into this direction, to be honest, because it's brought up a lot of really interesting things.
Listen, I am so excited to see how David's going to edit this.
I don't know how he's going to do it. This is definitely, he's got his work cut out for him. I'll tell you that.
He's going to be very mad at you and probably mad at me, but I'm not around him, so.
I really do. Honestly, the thing I really love about you, I said this at the beginning and then it just showed through our conversation that you and I love we are not scared of nuance. We're not the type of people who are like, no, I need to just have a right answer and no. And I honestly think that's what makes you such a valuable educator and such a valuable like coach for other teachers, because you can see all the different perspectives and ways to do things. And I know in your work with the Novomat, you have a way of teaching math that honors a lot of what you're talking about. Is that correct?
That's very true. Yes.
If there was a teacher listening to this right now who was like, the spiraling thing sounds cool, but I don't even know where to start, what advice do you have for them?
Call us. No.
Call a Novomat.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of research out there, and I encourage anybody, whenever somebody tries to throw research in your face, read it yourself, and then also try to actively seek counter arguments, so that way you can formalize the ideas yourself. I think start there. So read about what it is, how you could do it. In terms of resources, truthfully, as a company, we...
Something quick.
Yeah, there's not...
Something quick they can do.
Yeah, well, there's not really anything quick you can do. You have to really understand... Fair. You have to understand, there's nothing quick. But you need to dive into, how students actually learn. There's a lot of research there. And especially with, learning progressions or learning trajectories, dive into that. But
you guys have a whole curriculum, right? Like if a teacher was like, look, I don't want to read the science behind this. I believe everything you said on Vanessa's amazing podcast. I just want to do it. And I'm a grade 3 math teacher. Can they just get this from you? Can they get a lesson on how to, they can get a whole resource on how to teach their grade 3 curriculum in a spiraled way?
That'd be a stretch, but we could try. Yeah. It's not easy. This isn't an easy, there's not an easy answer for this one. To be honest, I wish I could tell you, other than finding spiral curriculums that are already out there, there's not an easy way, because most curriculums are written in unit format.
Okay, so we don't even have to put this in, but now I'm just curious, what is a Novomat's curriculum like?
Spiral.
But so I'm trying to, hello?
Listen.
So can you just tell people to just call you up? You're like, it's
I did
impossible,
say call
it's so
me.
hard. No.
And then you said, just call you, but what's something easy?
Okay,
that's what you said.
Part of this is going to be kept on. He's trying to not self-promote, but what we're saying here is a Novomat. This is not a pitch for a Novomat, but there is a resource out there that has all the grades spiraled for you.
I will tell you that, okay.
Is this reverse psychology?
No.
Is this don't call me, don't whatever?
No. Listen, I was not intending to have any type of self-promotion or promotion whatsoever. With that said, yes, at a Novomat, we
don't cut any of this. It's so
we
good.
We have a spiral learning trajectory that is based off of how students learn mathematics. Yes, we have partnered and are endorsed by Peter Lowendahl, Vanessa's best friend.
Oh, here we go.
And our core curriculum is called Thinking Math. We get kids to think more in math class in a way that they retain more over time. And we also have intervention that is used by Chicago Public Schools and other really big schools around the country. So, yeah.
I appreciate you not wanting to self-promote. I also didn't want you to self-promote, but honestly, I'm also spiraling sounds really, really interesting and very beneficial. And it's cool to know there's a resource out there. So you kind of played this well, because now it sounds like I'm forcing you to sell yourself.
You kind of are,
no
though.
hand in the matter.
You kind of are.
It's smart. It's kind of smart.
It's not. That is not what I tried to do, though. The only thing I did intentionally, and I can't wait. Okay, David, keep this part in. I am so thankful to be on this podcast, and I hope that this clip right here shows that Vanessa made me put her book at the top and then Chris's book at the bottom, or in the middle. No, don't. You can cut all that. But
we love you. Okay,
this
final
has been
two
great.
questions.
Go ahead. 2 questions that'll take another hour.
Fun.
Go ahead.
No, rapid fire questions. If there's one thing you could change about the way math is taught in schools, what would it be?
Get students to talk more about their reasons for why they believe what they believe, for an answer, for a process, anything like that. Hear what they're thinking, so that way we can address what their conceptions are or misconceptions are.
Love it. And number 2, someone's like, cool. Yeah, but I'm just not really a math person. Doesn't really matter how you teach me. I'm just not a math person.
I typically have a conversation with them about what they do for work, talk about their life and things like that, and then literally dissect how they're doing math all the time. And so
Okay.
Like you're clearly a math person because you literally do it all the time. And that's from reasoning, from organizing, from estimating when you go to the grocery store, to estimating your Amazon cart as you're clicking through all the things you want to buy, to, all of those things. You are doing math all the time. I'm not a math person is a BS thing to say. And on top of that, you coming out at anybody, any educator saying that Common Core and how the standards are like all this new math and, why aren't they teaching the way that I learned? My question to you is, did you like math? And do you want us to still teach it the way that you learned it? So you're saying you don't like math, you hate math, math isn't your thing, math isn't your jam, but you want us to teach your kid the same way. That's crazy.
Drop the fucking mic. Go off, King. And on that note, why do I keep saying that's a wrap? I've said it like 4 times. Okay, Rob.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Vanessa, thank you.
See, guys, I told you, I was not lying. Rob is the real deal. I'm still not over this whole space race calculus thing. I think it's so crazy that our education system is still mostly based around society's needs from literally decades ago. If learning should be about the future, why is education so stuck in the past? And you know what? I'm also really sitting here thinking about assessment. I know it's a hot topic, but to me, it's just this other thing that we do the same way we always have and haven't adjusted to be wait a second, what exactly are we doing here and why are we doing it? If you're thinking some of these same thoughts, please share this episode. Send it to a teacher who's struggling to connect assessment to practice, or a colleague who's in the process of rethinking the why behind their instructional practices, or literally anyone who's ever thought, but why are we doing this stuff and how can I be a part of the solution? And since I'm all fired up about assessment right now, here's your math therapy homework this week. I want you to reflect on the way you use assessment in the classroom and consider what it is you want to be assessing and whether or not the form of assessment that you're using actually assesses that thing. I'm curious what you'll discover. If it's a yes, how does that make you feel? If it's a no, how does that make you feel? And is there some tweak you could be making? And you guys know the drill. Text the podcast, DM me on Instagram @themathguru, or email me at vanessa@themathguru.ca. Links are all in the show notes, and I want to know what this brought up for you. I love hearing from you guys. And finally, remember, my book, Math Therapy, is now available on all audiobook platforms narrated by me, and my Math Therapy merch line is out, and I released a special little drop in the middle of my tour. So head to maththerapy.com/merch and get yourself something cute, or maybe get something cute for one of your besties because the holidays are fast approaching. And guys, Math Therapy is produced and edited by the one and only David Kochberg, who's also in my band, Goodnight Sunrise. And I bring that up because our theme music that you're listening to is by our band, Goodnight Sunrise. You can find new episodes weekly of Math Therapy because we are now a weekly podcast. So what's happening next week? Who knows? You're going to have to listen to find out. Oh my God, yes. Chris has picked up. Okay, sorry. I'm just recording the intro to Rob's session and we're having a debate. There we go. Is it Rob Baier or Baier? Are you recording this, David? We have Chris Lizniak. Is it Lizniak or Luzniak? Is it Luzniak? You go with either? All right. Oh my God, David is yelling in my ear. He said that when you interviewed him, Vanessa. Okay, I love you. Sorry, I want to talk to you more, but I have to record this. Thank you for coming in clutch. Rob Baier. Okay, there we go. Oh, Rob is calling me back. Rob is calling me. Rob, I got Rob on the horn. Okay, here's Rob. What I called you for is I'm currently recording the intro to your session, and I said Rob Baier, and David yelled, "It's Rob Baier." So we called you, and you didn't pick up. So then we called Chris Lesniak. We're recording all of this. This is amazing. This is going to be the best intro ever to our Unhinged episode. Okay, we have to go. Okay, love you. Okay, bye. Okay, you can use that however you want. Okay, here we go.